the American Constitutional Republic, affairs of state in Oklahoma, the beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people like you. This is 3D Politics. Oh, that's right, kiddies, featuring me, Tommy McKay, your comedian and fine political humorist, your verbal Viking, father of five, and former mayoral candidate. Catch me at verbalviking.com, and of course, creator of Sooner Politics, expert on Oklahoma state government, running for state vice chair of Oklahoma GOP. Welcome, please, David Vann. There he is. We'll welcome him in. No problems. All right. What an exciting show. 7:30, Ronda Vuillemont-Smith is supposed to be here, but you know all battles in the spiritual world are fought with all sorts of trouble along the way. So Oldham is out there traveling. Ronda's supposed to be here later. We're going to see what happens. I've got a GT Bynum. See, there's Oldham. Looks like he's coming in through the... Let's see if we can bring... Okay. But yes, David Oldham is going to join us, and there he is, founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com, political leader, educational speaker, former state of Oklahoma elector, David Oldham. Thanks for joining us, David. We'll make sure you get your sound rolling. There he is.
Just got out of his COVID chase car.
That's no kidding.
Get there. All right. We got everybody rolled in just in the nick of time. So here comes Ronda later. And without further ado, let's humanize ourselves. What about you guys? I know, Oldham, what have you been doing? You've been out there working as always, but what have you been doing quickly?
Well, I'm actually working to make a living this week. And so I am actually in a little dinky town in Kansas, in south central Kansas, and a little town called Greensburg, the only decent hotel in town. Okay. And so it just pulled in, and so I'm glad to be here. But I have news. I have seen, I think, a total of one mask all day.
Nice.
I haven't eaten at a place that has been served by somebody with a mask. I haven't been anywhere where anybody is using masks, and most places don't have the magic plexiglass up. So nice. And this is throughout Kansas, everywhere I've been. So it is awesome. And if we think we're doing good in Oklahoma now, I haven't been to a lot of rural areas in Oklahoma of late, not like I'm doing this next couple days up here, but there are a lot. I don't think Oklahoma is anywhere close to what Kansas is.
You know, Kansas, much like the earth, according to many, is flat. Just flat, is what I say.
It is. It's
Van,
lovely.
Van, make yourself human. What's real about you? Tell us what's real.
Oh, man. I tell you what, I'm enjoying springtime, my grandkids, and running for state party chair and feeling the excitement all over the state for taking the country back. We're mad as hell.
That's good. There's we are working on interviews for a week from today, the 5th, with people who are running for GOP seats like crazy. I'm just very excited to see all the people who are running. Now, as for me, personally, my big deal, I am so sick and tired of the alerts. If it's not an ozone alert, if the wind's not blowing, we got an ozone alert because they're going to punch a hole in the ozone. And if the wind starts to blow, we get a fire danger alert. So you're only under alert and stressed out under duress if the wind is blowing or if the wind is not blowing. Those are the only two conditions in which you got. So what I'm looking for.
I will tell you, the wind is blowing like crazy up here.
Yeah. So every month and every day, it's national this or that day, right? Remember last month I tried to make it National Individual Merit Accomplishment Day. I want one month set aside. It's like, take this from a hint from the Catholics: National Insert Your Own Personal Intentions Day, where whatever you're caring about is less important than what I'm caring about. Every month is taken up with, it's either Women's Day, somebody else's day. Everybody. How about Personal Intentions Month, where it's up to me and not somebody else? All right. So the big news, of course, moving on from last week, as you know, the big news is that Dylan Goforth, he was talked about heavily as he had a little deal where he threatened some people. And it was basically everybody in the Tulsa area. He said he would literally kill a person, any person, just name them. And I brought that to everybody's attention. And then a couple of weeks ago, I brought it to the attention of the Frontiers publisher, Bobby Lorton, that, Dylan Goforth, first property, next persons, because Dylan Goforth was all involved in wanting to knock over statues and stuff before he threatened to kill a person, any person. And it encouraged Casey Bartholomew, I think, another inciting of violence against private citizens. And then, of course, Dylan Goforth can't be taken seriously about the streets even, because Quinn Fields was like, are you real or are you sarcasm? I can't really make it out. But the big news, of course, today is that, Van, who is it that's living in whose head rent-free now? Is that your apology? Dylan Goforth has blocked me. It's amazing how long it takes a millennial to find the "you can't follow me" button anymore. So anyway, that's my big breaking news about Dylan Goforth, is that he's blocked me. All right, so GT Bynum, right? We all think that he only became pertinent here recently in 2016 when he became the what we call mayor. And so actually, if you'll just let me here I go again. If you'll just let me share this. This is GT Bynum making news back in can you see that? Yeah. It looks like it was in April 13th, 2012. Yep. Now, how in the world is it that GT Bynum was making news in 2012? Well, City Councilor then GT Bynum, with Uncle Dewey, I call him, Uncle Dewey Bartlett, were addressing the media during a press conference at City Hall. Now, what in the world were they talking about? Well, I'll tell you what they were talking about. This is from Brian Barber, World Staff, April 13th. Mayor Dewey Bartlett and the City Council announced Friday 6 members of a new task force that would make recommendations to make Tulsa one of America's safest cities. Now, remember, this is 1 week exactly after the Tulsa race massacre, or the Tulsa Good Friday shooting. Okay, so there was a Good Friday shooting. Yep. And then 1 week later, Uncle Dewey and Councilor Bynum popped out with the new task force. And get this, Bynum said, this is from the story, Brian Barber, Bynum said that by naming the task force's members, city's leaders are acknowledging that the sum of all wisdom on this subject does not reside within City Hall. Boy, I love that one. Oh, yeah. I wonder if that would work with masks or rainwater or parenting. And so this task force that now the people on the task force, here's a big deal. Bartlett and Council Chairman G.T. Bynum. Now, Bynum was not just a city councilor, he was the council chairman. G.T. Bynum, council chairman, April 13th, 2012, emphasized that the Public Safety Task Force is not in response to the Good Friday shooting spree that killed 3 residents and wounded 2. So the literal, I mean, I don't know how condescending you can get. You have a shooting spree on Good Friday. A week later, Uncle Dewey Bartlett comes out with G.T. Bynum with a Make Tulsa Safer pledge, But we're supposed to believe it's not in response to that. The appointees were Carol Bush, Reuben Davis, Paul Gallagher, Hastings Seafried, Kevin Matthews, and Regina Moon. Now, the task force was charged at the time with providing actionable steps to the mayor and the council by December 1st to help Tulsa become a safer city. Well, I wonder whatever happened to those safer steps, and I never did. The funny thing is, in 2016, we never did hear Bynum talk about this task force that he was on. And also, it says, where does it tie him over? The task force is the product of the mayor and the council's joint goals and objectives set for 2021. Yeah. So here we are, 2012, and Bynum is on a task force setting goals for Tulsa for 2021.
Well, yeah, but if I could home in on something you said there, they're forming this committee because they said what? Solutions are not found exclusively within City Hall, right?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, let's just fast forward it to last week's big story. You spent plenty of time on it about this task force on women in the workplace, right?
Yes.
And it forms all of these people. But guess what? There's already a bunch of corporations and agencies that signed on to a pledge. Okay. Right. I am very close to a company that was one of those pledge signers. All of the task force objectives and all of the principles that the corporations had to sign on to were already set before they named a single woman on that committee. So again,
I'm not trying to look for an aside. We've got Ronda Vuillemont-Smith in the waiting room. We're going to bring her on at 7:30. My point to talk about G.T. Bynum is that he was already on a task force to help make Tulsa safer in 2012. Now, you come forward, and since G.T. Bynum, we've had riots in the streets, policemen gunned down and dead. And now, zoom forward to March 26, 2021, threats to the black community. Here it is from Greenwood Chamber threatens to close street during Juneteenth by Nate Morris, the Black Wall Street Times. March 17th, an email from Chairman Freeman Culver asked that the permits closing the street for the Centennial Juneteenth celebration be denied. This is not a permit story. I'm rushing through that. Events like the Juneteenth celebration in the story tells us that the annual commemorations of 1921 massacre have taken place on Greenwood Avenue for decades. So further down, because I'm not trying to turn this into a permit story, this is how G.T. Bynum has failed in his ability to keep Tulsa safe. And it hasn't been because he just started in 2016. He was counselor for the task force to make us safe in 2012. Okay, and we've had nothing but gunned down policemen's race riots. And now the chamber sent a second email to the sheriff. This is the Greenwood Chamber sent an email to the sheriff, the Tulsa police chief, the mayor, and 7 other county officials on March 19th. The March 19th email stated, without specific evidence, agitators, quote, agitators are planning something very horrible, end quote. For the May and June events, you have, quote, you have been officially warned, end quote, the message exclaimed. Okay, the email even linked to private Facebook's accounts that were supposed to be community. There are 3 community members with the urging of, quote, do something before it's too late. The Black Wall Street Times, to their credit, followed up on those links. There was no concerning content immediately apparent, according to the Black Wall Street Times. The Greenwood Chamber of Commerce, Inc. supports all African American cultural heritage events in the Greenwood District, according to a statement from Dr. Freeman Culver. And it says that the staff and business owners have received numerous threats leading up to the Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial. You are listening to Tommy McKay, your verbal Viking, holding G.T. Bynum to task for making Tulsa less safe, even though he's had since 2013 to make it more safe. My 2 compatriots, David Vann, here with me, running for state vice chair at the state level in GOP Oklahoma, and David Oldham, founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com. Going on, not only have several people people joined in downtown Tulsa Friday afternoon in response to the rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans. This is from March 26. Mariah Ellis, Fox 23 News. March organizer Jade Negan, however you say it, says whether or not it happened, whatever happened in Georgia was racially motivated or not, Asian Americans are waking up in fear, especially as Asian crime hates are rising. This is Tulsa, Oklahoma, where G.T. Bynum promised to make it safe. Several people joined in response to the rise of crimes in Tulsa against the Asians. So what we know here is that G.T. Bynum is not making us more safe. He's making it less safe for us here in Tulsa.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's had since
Sounds like
2013. Yes, Oldham, what?
No, I'm still stuck on this not being a permit story. But
there's a whole show of permit story. My point is, G.T. Bynum has spoken nothing about making it safer, because what we have is policemen dead, riots in the street, and now the black community is threatened. So G.T. Bynum, let's circle back to 2013 when G.T. Bynum and Uncle Dewey were supposed to make everything safe for us. Remember, Ronda V. Smith is in the waiting room coming up. Oldham, do you want to talk a little bit about the filibuster before we bring her in?
Well, you wanted to bring it up, and I thought it was a good topic to discuss.
It's hot. It's the thing. I thought you would know about it.
And let's understand, it's not a constitutional parameter or option for government. It is constitutional because the Congress gets to set their own rules about how they go about things.
Discretion of the Senate, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And the Senate is trying to maintain an illusion of propriety and in trying to keep the illusion that they're actually doing business as though the 17th Amendment didn't actually exist. Your bugaboo, Tom.
Right.
And so the filibuster was part of that, to slow things down and make things more deliberative, because otherwise they just end up being another house, which is exactly what they are. They're just another popular body.
Right.
Well, so the filibuster, what it is, for those who don't know, is it requires, when somebody filibusters from either party within the Senate, and this is only in the Senate, this is not in the House of Representatives. Okay. When somebody filibusters, and you'll hear them reading Green Eggs and Ham, Ted Cruz did that. They'll speak for hours and hours and hours. Rand Paul has done it, Ted Cruz has done it, and others have spoken for up to 24 hours to keep debate going and so forth. And it requires 60 votes in order to break the filibuster. 60 or 61 votes. I think it's 60 votes. Well, with that 60 votes, then they reach the threshold to break the filibuster. Now, this could be on anything that just needs a simple majority for the bill to pass, but it's a way for the Senate to slow everything down and require a super majority of about 60, 65, whatever it is. I can't remember. Sure. Now, the big push right now is to break the filibuster, because remember, Democrats and Republicans are equally split in the Senate, with a Democrat vice president in Kamala Harris to break the tie. So ending the filibuster means that the minority party, the one without the tiebreaker, can filibuster things and keep it from getting going through. Now, the Democrat talk is to break the filibuster, to do away with it temporarily or permanently, and then allow everything through as a simple majority.
Hey, Oldham, I want to just clarify something. The term breaking a filibuster usually refers to coming up with enough votes to shut it down.
Correct.
Changing the rules of the Senate is not breaking the filibuster, it's nullifying the filibuster rules as we have them.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Now they override or they suspend the rules
Yeah.
or they could just change the rule and get rid of the filibuster altogether. Now, mind you, the filibuster has been in for, I didn't look up the history of it, but I think the filibuster's been around for 150 years or so.
Yeah, the current version, the 60 vote thing, that started in 71 is what my understanding is.
But they've had some form of filibustering within the Senate for years and years and years before that.
Yeah.
Now, Van, sorry, Oldham, I got to interrupt. With Van, I got to clarify. You say 71. 1971. I'm with Van.
Yes, 1971 was, we did some major changes on that. Before that, you know, it's really true. And I want to recommend, if you want a good, feel-good movie to watch, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington with Jimmy Stewart.
Jimmy Stewart.
Fantastic expose. Yeah, fantastic expose on how the filibuster works in action and why a senator might invoke a filibuster. It basically means, in regular order, once you've got the microphone, or you have the floor is what they call it, you have the floor until you're done speaking and yield back.
Okay, I derailed Oldham. It's really a test of passion, isn't it? In a way, the filibuster originally. I mean,
yes, it was. What it is whoever starts the filibuster keeps talking until they vote you away, and allow the the breakage of the filibuster. In other words, that they've got enough votes. What has happened, and I think it's maybe since 1971, is you don't have to speak the entire time. They keep it up for a very long time for news cycle and things like that. But once it starts nowadays, it doesn't end until there are enough votes, whether there's any speaking or not. And it used to be that it just kept going, and they didn't do other business until they ended the filibuster, or moved on to other business, tabled that business and moved on, tabled or
and I want to mention a similar tool that is used. Tom Coburn invoked it when the Obamacare bill came up in the Senate. They ask unanimous consent to present the bill to the floor as read. Now, the term as read, what that means is as though we read it to you, because the rule is that the bill has to be read out loud. Well, Tom Coburn in that situation objected. He says, no, it has not been read. And so therefore it stalled them for like 4 days, and people had to take turns reading sections of this tens of thousands of pages of bill. So there's another trick they use.
It is, but that doesn't require any votes to break. It's gonna be done reading at some point. And but it does get it into the record, and they are postponed for a few days, but only a few days. And this was after Tom Coburn voted to allow it to go to the floor in the first place by allowing it through committee. So, you know, it was voted. I watched him in committee. He had an alternate proposal that got voted down, but it was straight party line vote on.
Well,
there was somebody, anyway.
Without getting into the history of it, I wanted to touch on the filibuster and get Oldham's discussion about it, because it kind of, I wanted to clarify my belief of the understanding that the filibuster is a protection of the minority primarily. Is that okay? It's like the Electoral College, literally protecting the minority.
It is, and the biggest problem that you have, again, the 17th Amendment is the biggest problem with the Senate, because by not having the senators answer to the legislatures, what you get is you get no state input on anything, and you get popular, whatever is popular, that's what gets pushed. And since we know who controls the media, we know what's going to be popular, and we're seeing that right now with the push in the media, because people won't turn off the flipping TV.
Right now, I am so glad you mentioned the 17th Amendment. I mean, even though Sooner Politics, Constitutional Grounds, and me, the Verbal Viking, are independent pillars that come together on Monday night to discuss three-dimensional politics, can we all agree that one of the reasons that we come together in three-dimensional politics is to defeat and repeal this 17th Amendment? I believe that's one of the things that's just, I think we can agree on that as a foundational concept, that we come together each week to get rid of that 17th Amendment. It's literally,
I'm going for the 16th as well, because
we got to start somewhere.
Go back, it's got to go back to the states. Everything has to go back to the states.
Right.
The states have got to get a hand back in the federal government. Because the federal government think that there are rulers. I mean, look at Joe Biden about to issue an executive order, if he hasn't already done it, but to ban assault weapons or whatever it's going to be. It's completely illegal. Nobody will ask the question from the media, the appropriate questions, and they think they rule, and they don't.
Right. And again, we always can get more from Oldham on the Constitution, and the filibuster is just one of those things I wanted to talk. Yes, Oldham.
And I will say this on the filibuster: it is not a constitutional issue; it's a political issue. Yeah. It is something that the Senate can take away if they chose, but the reasons they want to take it away is so that they can criminally violate the Constitution. Yep. That is their express purpose for removing the filibuster at this point in time. It is to pass unconstitutional legislation. That is like HR 1 and etc.
Right. Well, that is excellent. And so Ronda V. Smith is in the waiting room. She's coming up here shortly before we get out of here. But one of the things I also, before we get out of the filibuster, not only have I validated that the filibuster is there to protect the minority. Okay. It's not, the group always crushes the individual. It's never the other way around. The reason I think that I've just learned from Oldham, the way that the filibuster rule works is that one guy who's passionate enough, who will stand up there all night long talking, can be voted down if the group wants to crush the individual. But the only chance that the individual has to save anything is to filibuster with his passion and go on and on and on and on, clinging with tensile strength instead of simply going with the consensus. And so, I mean, this is critical under civic understanding.
Yes.
Van, you totally agree with all that stuff, right?
Oh yeah, he nailed it. Nailed it.
You know, the Socialist Democrats, they don't want, one of the problems I think the GOP has, and I just say that kind of in general, a blanket statement. The people on the right are so polite. They want to be fair about their governance. We want to make sure that if we're in charge, that you have a chance to speak. But the Socialist Democrats, they're not interested in 50-50 governance. They're like, this is war. This is political war. They're into annihilating you, annihilating me. Even at the local levels, they're willing to do smear campaigns on people who are just politely nobody. You know, they're like, I mean, they're literally growing stuff out of nowhere, and so the socialist. And you know, did you know? Also, I've got some breaking news. Did you know that Aunt Jemima is getting a chance to get back into the pancake business? Thanks to Cardi B. Cardi B, the rapper, with WAP. Aunt Jemima is coming out with a new product of syrup that is supposed to be used on wet-ass pancakes. There you go, kids. All right. That's all we got for now.
If only that was true. If Cardi B would step up, you might be able to get... I mean, do you realize that Aunt Jemima was the lady who represented
a former slave, literally a former slave.
Aunt Jemima was a former slave
literally.
Who was freed, and it was an expression of freedom that she could then be a model and spokesmodel for the product, and they are downing that. It's like, oh.
Taking the contract away from them. All right, you guys, take yourself out. We're going to reset at the half hour. Coming up at 7:30, right? Oh, at 7:31 right now. Coming up at the break, we will bring you Ronda Vuillemont-Smith, the Tulsa County GOP Chair, to tell us about all the exciting stuff that is going on there. Hang tight while we reset with 3D Politics, featuring David Van, David Oldham, and Tommy McKay, the Verbal Viking. We'll be back in just 1 minute. The American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of State in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people like you. This is 3D Politics. Tonight, and as usual, featuring creator of Sooner Politics, expert on Oklahoma State government, professional advocate for those needing mental health care, running for state vice chair in Oklahoma GOP. Please welcome David Van. Also, as usual, and on the run in the COVID chase car, founder and scholar at Constitutional Grounds, political leader, educational speaker David Oldham. And, of course, me, your fine host, the Verbal Viking, Tommy McKay. Find me at verbalviking.com. And without further ado, let's bring in Ronda Vuillemont-Smith, by golly. I will beam her in as we admit her. Here she comes. She's joining now. There's a beautiful picture of her assistant. Oh, there it is. Okay, let's make sure we can hear her.
There we go.
Can we hear you? Connecting to audio almost. Okay, you got to unmute. We can almost see you. I mean, we can see you. We can almost hear you. You got to unmute, though. There it is. Let's hear you.
How's that?
There she is, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Ronda Vuillemont-Smith.
You don't have to do it over the phone anymore.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Ronda Vuillemont-Smith, thanks for joining us. It's been weeks in the making. And we appreciate you showing up. Tulsa County GOP Chair just recently won that. Tonight, I don't want to relive a whole bunch of history, but I do want a tiny bit of a civics lesson. I want to know, what is the Tulsa County GOP Chair? What do they do? What are your duties? And then lead us into, what do you want to do that fixes stuff from what hasn't been done yet?
Well, my duties are to represent the Republican Party and to help in organizing precincts and to grow the party. Of course, you've got to raise money as well, but basically that's what my responsibilities are. I've been having numerous meetings. We are setting up a medias and communications. We are working on just different ideas that we've got. I've got a great team. I probably have the most diverse team of any Republican Party I know, at least in the state, if not in the United States. We have 3 African-American individuals, and there are 4 women on my leadership team.
So, I mean, the fact that you're focused first on representation, that rings my bell. I like that. And so I guess, I mean, from what you're telling me, the Tulsa County GOP is highly representative of, I guess, the nation, or at least half the nation through the GOP.
Well, I think that we're very well represented in Tulsa County, and we have big plans to go a long way to set the standard for other counties across the state.
So what are the simple kind of, with the, as you represent, you have to meet on occasion, you have to format or plug in or email or do something. So what are some of the basic civic duties if say, you know, when you're done with your position, someone coming up behind you and you had to say, well, look, you know, the thing you got to do the most is what? What's the thing you got to do?
Organize.
But I mean, well, okay. I mean, not in general. What I'm saying is organize. Does that mean Excel spreadsheet? What does that mean?
Yes, and I hate Excel. I don't understand it. I am totally lost. No, I'm going to tell you that first week I saw so many Excel spreadsheets, my eyes were crossing.
That's
And-
Mike McCutcheon for you. He
Well,
was all about Windows.
Well, you know, you had to send in everybody's information, and then if, you know, you've got bad information and you've got to correct it, and then you get this one that, you know, this Excel spreadsheet that you can compare against this Excel spreadsheet. I'm sorry, I'm having a problem. I guess my ears aren't as big as David's.
No, but I mean, we're hearing you
I'm
fine, but
using
I love it.
David.
You're literally answering my question because that's what I wanted was a tiny bit of the boring. So it sounds, so it's like any other leader of a group. You're grooming lists of people who are in the list or in the group. You got to go through and clarify accurate information of lists of groups, right?
Well, and realize, Tom, that we had about 560 people that we submitted for the you know, for the convention, for the state convention. So we are going to have a wonderful representation from Tulsa County.
So what that means is there's 500 people in the group that is convened to represent Tulsa County.
Right, but Tulsa County only has, I think we have 277 votes.
Well, yeah, that's our delegation.
That's our delegation, right.
Okay.
So our delegation, we get 277 votes, but we can take as many people as want to go to the convention.
Excellent. That's always
No, we
good.
chose to go as an open convention, correct?
Right. Yes, we did.
Okay, so everybody gets to participate, but your vote may be a portion if we get more than the 270
Right.
to actually show
The
up.
Republican Party uses a weighted voting system, and so your vote can never be counted for more than 2 votes, and it can't be counted, but you can't ever exceed the allotted number of delegates that were given to us. So if we had 300 people that showed up and 277 are what we have allotted, then it's a fraction of a vote. Right. But if we had 150 people show up and we have 277, then those votes would equal, based on the allotment, the 277.
So, I mean, part of the Tulsa County GOP chair's job is
herding cats.
So you got to touch base with the numbers so that the parliamentarians know. You have to accurately identify the numbers so that the parliamentarians know where you stand in any one given time with the numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's that you kind of have to overlap.
Complicated process.
Well, even though I'm a man, I may be able to follow it.
Only if you stop and ask for directions first.
Yeah, but Tom, there is one legal power that, in Ronda and I've been a part of this, is appointing a representative to the county election board. That's one of the things, you know, that the county party gets to do. So.
What's your thoughts on that, Rhonda?
Who knew?
What's he talking about, Rhonda?
No, he's just saying that at the election board, there should be representation from both the Republicans and the Democrats. Currently, it's George Weiland that serves as our elector down there, or election official. Bob Jack is the reserve or alternate. So, and I'm sure that if the situation were to come open, you know, then of course we would be given the opportunity to appoint someone else, but it would likely be Bob Jack would move up into that position.
Yeah, so, and not only do they oversee the election process itself, but they hear the challenges to candidate filings. So it can be pretty influential.
Well, and there was a lot, especially this last election cycle, with all of the absentee ballots that came in. And a lot of things that weren't done correctly. And so they had to come to an agreement between the two the Republican and the Democrat, whether that vote would be that ballot would be accepted or not.
Yeah.
They do have a big responsibility.
It seems like your job is part, administrative and part parliamentarian. You almost have to overlap with the rules versus, all just basic administration. Who's in the group,
Pretty
what's
much.
their address.
And,
Well, I mean-
and then it's also den mother, right? So
That makes sense, Oldham. Actually,
tell us what you are doing, because the Republican Party is made up of cats, as you put it,
Right.
and everybody's got an idea and wants to help out, and especially right now when so many people are activated because of all of the egregious
Right.
things that we've seen going on. What are you doing to help encourage all of these people and still kind of control things, as it were? But because I know not every idea is going to come from you.
No, and I know I'm doing something wrong because this thing keeps falling out.
just don't admit
No,
it.
you're
It'll
not.
be
No,
fine.
I've been having a lot of meetings. I've met with a number of people that have really reached out in an effort to want to help the party to contribute in some way. And I've been very blessed by the outpouring of opportunities to get to know different people within the party. So I did have one because of the unusual way that we handled our meeting this year, where we had the precinct meeting and the convention at the same time. We ended up because we had also agreed that if a precinct wanted to hold their meeting ahead of time in their own precinct, that they could do that as long as they let the chairman know. And that occurred in 2 different precincts. Well, one of the precincts we ended up with having having the meeting also at the convention because they didn't know that there had been a meeting already set. So now I'm having to work through that and trying to, because there can only be one precinct chair and one precinct vice chair.
Right.
And so we're working through that process right now.
Sure. Yeah.
Good.
Rhonda, I want to mention, I remember 2013, this was right after you and I worked on Santorum's campaign, and we've had a lot of friends with the Ron Paul campaign. Oldham was one of those in that campaign. But I remember how—
Was he a friend then?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I do remember how you and I, we really didn't talk about this, but we tried to find a way in 2013, reorganizing the party, to get the Ron Paul people involved and active and fully accepted. And I think it was a very successful thing. And I'm thinking about the Tea Party thing, which, you were a part of that big thing just a few years earlier. I go back a decade before that when the Pat Robertson religious right came in, and I remember how hated we were.
Yeah.
And so I think the message in all this is always be opening up and bringing new people in. And what I saw come out of the last convention was a great, demographic change in how many people for the first time went to convention just last month. So it's a good thing. And I know those things and value drawing new people in.
Well, I just think that if we continue to rely on the same people all the time, then it's kind of like doing the same thing over and over again. It's insanity. So we have to bring fresh ideas, because my ideas aren't the best ideas. I mean, I might have a good idea, but you might have a better idea. And I want to always be open to listening to other people and to even, to helping them to bring whatever their vision is to fruition, if it's within my power. And I think that's what I did, even with the Tulsa 912 project and trying to bring in, like you say, the Ron Paul people and different. We have to be accepting. We have to, we have to know that we're not all the same. We're going to think differently. We also have to recognize that the party is not a church. So we're not here to get you saved.
Amen.
I hear you, but we're not here to get you saved. And if we want to be open to all, in the First Amendment, it says that, to protect political, or not political, but religious liberties.
Yes.
So then we have to protect all religious liberties, not just the ones that we like.
You are now still listening here with, you're listening to the voice of Ronda Vuillemont-Smith, the Tulsa County GOP Chair, along with me, Tommy McKay, your fine host with 3D Politics Live every Monday night. David Van and David Oldham join me now. Ronda, I think you would agree then with, from what you just said, with G.T. Bynum, mayor of Tulsa, that the sum of all wisdom on this subject does not reside just within the Tulsa County GOP.
No,
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to be
good.
funny. But I mean, what you're saying is, to be
nice
serious.
try.
Yeah, it was really a good
Nice
swing. The ball went right by. But I think what you're trying to say is that when you say you don't have good ideas, or you don't have every idea, you do have good ideas, and maybe you have all ideas, but the problems that we face are bigger than one person. It's bigger than one person's perspective or ability to see all facets.
Well, this isn't one person's party either, and just because I do it a certain way doesn't make it the right way. And so I'm always open to hear of other ideas, and I'm always willing to sit down and listen. I may not always do what you want, but I'm willing to sit down and listen, and I'll at least try and connect you with people that can help you.
Do you know anybody that can repeal the 17th Amendment? Go ahead, Oldham.
You're stuck on that one, huh?
I'd say Oldham.
Forever, not just stuck. That's my hamburger hill, okay?
51% of 2/3 of the states. Or no, 3/4 of the states. We got to get 2/3 of them to call for it. But I think the big message that I see coming from you in everything that you're doing is, if you have an idea and you want to get it active, get active, volunteer. We'll put you to work with your idea. And you put people to work and help them, give them the resources within your power, and try to turn them on to resources. So everybody should come with their ideas, right?
Yes. And I now I lost my train of thought.
I think I stole it. I think I stole you. You're going to say something about the 17th Amendment.
No, I wouldn't. That's your gig.
I just killed some time for you. Hit it.
That's all right. No, I do want to hear everybody's ideas, and while I don't, I think that participation in the party is important, especially when you want to bring your ideas forth. And I think that spending time in the party and putting your time in, so to speak, pays off in the end, because that's where you've made the connections, you know how things work, and you can begin to branch out and do your own thing.
All right, Van, what do you got?
Yeah, Rhonda, how does this affect 912's leadership? Because, I mean, you can only spread yourself so thin.
That's a good question.
Well, 912 right now, we have a monthly meeting, the second Thursday of every month. So it's finding speakers and stuff like that. But the part right now that is a little challenging is doing the emails, getting the emails together. But it was also challenging here. And I finally just switched the email program that we were using here at the county, because I was spending so much time trying to figure it out that I wasn't getting it done.
Consolidating your apps.
I feel your pain. No, I was getting more to, you've always been trying to find good leadership in 912. And now, I mean, are you looking for more people to step up there? Or?
Oh, I'd love to have more people step up there. I've got a wonderful vice president, and one of your gentlemen's wives.
My God, my wife never told me it.
I know.
What?
I know. Yes.
Honey,
She's been working for
you're
a
in trouble.
while. She's been writing big checks too.
Yeah.
What?
Well, Rhonda, I was telling you.
I do need to get some more people in leadership and stuff. But right now, we're gonna make it work, and we're gonna continue to provide quality candidates, or not quality candidates, but quality speakers to come in and educate us and motivate us.
Well, you and I were talking a couple years ago, because you're always coming up with ideas, and it's just learning to delegate off or hand off. I mean, look at this show tonight. You and I were talking about this 4 years ago,
right?
And we finally got it launched, and now we're celebrating our 2nd anniversary.
That's right. Happy anniversary. Happy birthday.
Hey, Rhonda, I keep saying, Rhonda helped me paint my background here. It's
right.
fine work back there.
Well, that is the best looking green I have ever seen.
Oldham.
So I can sing happy birthday to you if you'd like.
But really, we did. We baked this. This was a baby fetus idea.
Oh no, I got it.
What if I do this thing? And your mother was like, well, as long as the dog doesn't bite you. He's like, that's a dog.
Well, Rhonda, I'd like to see maybe you and Lori and some of the gals do a counterpart to this show.
Oh no, that's crazy, Van. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, is it something like what Brooke and I did when we did Sugar and Spice?
There you go. Yeah. What was that?
That was
Sugar
fun.
And Spice?
Sugar and Spice. Yeah.
Well, now, Rhonda, you have been in this.
Nobody believed I was the sugar.
See, the problem with that show is it wasn't sugar. It was sugar. And
no, it was supposed to be sugar.
Well,
I'm from the South.
I didn't know you guys were going to go total racist on me here, you guys. All of a sudden, now we're talking racist. Oh,
how is that racist?
Oh, who cares how it's racist?
I've determined that if you call me a racist, I call you a pedophile. So
I didn't call you racist. I didn't call you racist. I just said you're disgusting racism.
Way to crawfish.
So are you saying then, Tom, you're not a pedophile? Is that what
I'm not anymore.
Not anymore.
Totally knocked the whole thing off. Yeah.
So, no, I agree. And actually, tonight we were meeting with our communications, with the communications team, talking about what we want to do to put our welcome on there. We do want to incorporate video more. We do want to do some more, we do want to do some podcasts and stuff. But video is the way to get your message out, and you can get it out quick and everything. But right now I've got an elephant that I'm eating, and I'm trying to just eat it one bite at a time. People say, "Well, what's going on, Rhonda?" And I said, "Well, I feel like the dog that caught the car." And so now you got to figure out what you're going to do with it.
That sounds right.
So, but it's not a situation I've never been in before. So I'm familiar with it, and I actually love it. I've got wonderful volunteers that work in the office every day. I've got wonderful people that have stepped up and said, "Hey, what can I do to help?" And I just think that's a great thing. I think you're going to see wonderful and big things coming out of the Tulsa Republican Party by the time my term is over.
So I got a question, and you're talking about bringing new people in, and I know in certain ways, with all due respect, you're Madam Butterfly in politics. For me, I ran for mayor in 2016, and I didn't ask you first, and what I you know what I'm saying? So when you say I want a lot of people to join the GOP, well, I was frankly disappointed with how quickly anybody reached out to welcome me when I said I'm running now, because I got into a fight with Uncle Dewey Bartlett Jr. And that's what I was ticked off about, because he was basically lying to me on the Pat Campbell show about whether he knew the ballot language or not that he'd been pushing for 3.5 years, when I was able to look at it on my iPhone. So I went into battle against Dewey Bartlett Jr. Okay. But when I ran, when I filed, the answer that I got from you over the air on Pat Campbell's show was, you can't just file and start running. You got to meet people and go to meetings. And I was like, bull crap, I can start running now. And right. I did. And it's not like I won. But what I'm saying is, how it took me 10 days to get a simple response from the GOP that I was running. It wasn't like they welcomed me with open arms. It was like going to the city arts and trying to get involved in their local theater when they act like, oh, we welcome everybody. And when you get there and you say, I got an idea about conservative politics, and like, get out, you pig. You're a second responder. You're no good. So what I found out was, and even Van said, we'll support you during the primary and ditch you during the general because you can't win. And that's fine with me. That's good politics. How, back to Oldham's point, how do we get these ideas in? And it's called the primary. And you got to let people like me, losers, nobody that steps up with a good idea, okay? And we got to get that stuff in the primary discussion. And then like Van, you go for the guy that might be able to win. But we cannot shun new guys like me who are so handsome and just let them run down the field. Pat Campbell did a disservice to the Tulsa community by not at least hearing my idea about extending the lifespan of cyclical municipal regulations like permits and licenses.
So have you run again?
I am running 3D politics, interviewing people like you who matter, because I can do a better job doing this than I can appointing people to run 172 different task force like GT Bynum, who has really become emasculated in the last 4 years. Van, what do you got?
Rhonda, this is a little off subject, but
Okay.
you know, Pat Campbell and you have been friends for a long time. You've been a sponsor of his show. He's had health issues. Can you give us any update in respecting his privacy?
Just keep him in your prayers. He's had some health setbacks, and so if you just keep him in your prayers, that would be greatly appreciated, because he needs them, and he would love to get back, but I don't know that that's going to happen.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
Hey, I hate to get back to Ken Reddick here. We've still never heard the details about Tom's good idea. Ken Reddick, when you run again, Ken Reddick, against GT Greg Robinson, you'll bring up extending the lifespan. Write it down, Ken. You'll extend. Now, Oldham, you can interrupt me in a second. Extend the lifespan of cyclical municipal regulations like permits and fees. We're not going to stamp them out all at once. It's incremental win. Plus, we've got Ronda on the show to talk to us about Tulsa County GOP Chair. Ronda, great job running. Listen, you really, I think really, regardless of whatever critique I might have of how fast anybody can respond in the GOP, I think the GOP has tightened their game, and they're better now than they were 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I know that I think that at least subliminally I was encouraged to run by you, not knowing you personally yet, but still you were there bringing out the issues of the GOP and encouraging me to run. And so I did, and that's a whole nother story. But you've been in it to win it. It's clearly a labor of love. It's not like anybody wants to pour through Excel spreadsheets because it feels so good. But so I really appreciate what you've been doing. Yes, Oldham.
I want to deal with the elephant in the room.
Oh God, I thought it left. Who is it?
Well, let's let Ronda get her earpiece back in.
I got it.
Okay,
what's the elephant, Oldham?
The elephant in the room, always with a new chairman, is can you raise money? Can you bring everybody together, the grassroots and the tall building crowd and all of that? What are your thoughts toward all of that?
Well, I'm going to do my best to raise money. I'm not going to make any promises that I can't keep. I do believe that grassroots needs to be involved in the fundraising, needs to be a part of it. I think we all need a little bit of skin in the game. It's real easy to point fingers at the party and say, oh, you should have done this and you should have done that. But when nobody's out there, if they're not supporting it, I don't want to depend. Here's what I don't want to have to depend on. I don't want to go to the legislators all the time and ask them for money. That's not. Then that puts them above the party. And I think that we need to keep the party above the politicians. And if they want to make a donation, they're more than welcome to. But I think that we need to try and work through the grassroots and some of the smaller donations and maybe some in-kind donations.
Yeah.
It's not always about money. Sometimes it's just about not having to spend the money.
Well,
And
if I could on that,
Man.
Rhonda, Bob Jack left the office in great shape, didn't he?
he left it in incredible shape.
Well over 30,000 is what I
It was
heard.
over $30,000. It sure was. And
Yeah.
there's about $5,000 left. And so
You mean you blew 20?
Wow. I got to get in on this GOP lottery.
gotcha.
3 weeks, 25 grand.
For all the people that weren't listening, they're like, "Okay,
Well,
hey, I got to reset." Rhonda, you want to stick around? Hang on. We're going to reset. Everybody goes to dark. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Ronda Vuillemont-Smith on 3D Politics with Tommy McKay, your fine host, David Van and David Oldham. You guys get ready to reset. Okay, Rhonda, I'm going to put you back in the waiting room.
Okay.
Because this is how we play the
How
game.
many
Hang
minutes
tight.
do I have?
Oh,
did it.
man, I'm not going to let you be host anymore. I'm not going to let you be co-host. You totally, that was just
We were
rude.
out in the middle of a
That was
question.
rude. Okay.
sorry.
Okay. Now, Van, take yourself out. Oldham, you got to go.
Oh, I have to go too. Oh,
Everybody
that's a half
goes.
hour.
Everybody goes. The American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like you. This is 3D Politics. Here we are again. Tommy McKay, your verbal Viking, 3D Politics every Monday night right here on Facebook Live. Joining me every week, David Van, creator of Sooner Politics, expert on Oklahoma state government, running currently for state vice chair, and also David Oldham, founder and scholar at constitutionalgrounds.com, political leader, educational speaker, and the guy I really counted on in 2016 to let me sleep safely. All right, let's bring Rhonda back in as we... Van, I'm just watching you, see what you did.
I had to take myself out to let her in.
We're bringing Rhonda back in.
I
Oh,
had
no.
to take the cube out. The reason I took her out is so I could bring the cube in for your transition.
There we go.
We're trying. There she is. Okay, how was that fun, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, it's like the Himalaya. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. We can't hear you. That's just like the Himalaya.
What is that pinging noise?
You're on the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise with Tom.
Okay. Because
We
I'm
beat
like,
you up.
Yeah, that was part of the pre-show checkup that you couldn't make earlier to explain to you. Tom's
That's
nuts.
because
and
he
he
was
thinks-
in the middle of a.
All right, Oldham. She doesn't need you to stand up for her. She can push me away in a second. So anyway, Rhonda, you have been a stalwart here in Tulsa. I know it because you subliminally helped me run my own emotional campaign against Dewey Bartlett, Uncle Bartlett Jr., that we know now was an inside job to hand the baton off to little cousin or little nephew GT. That's what I say.
things the same way you do. I don't see that.
Well, that's
at
why
all.
you're here. You can
That's
beat
right.
me. You
No,
think there
I
was a
think-
difference when I ran for mayor against GT and Dewey Bartlett? Dewey Bartlett ditched the women's league. He for the first time in 20 years, the sitting mayor did not show up at the women's league debate, and he left GT Bynum there. And Burt Mumolo said, "What do you think about Dewey Bartlett not showing up?" And I said, "It's fine. GT Bynum is here to cover it because they both had the same agenda." What was the difference, Rhonda, especially considering the future of the GOP? You tell me, what discernible difference was there between GT Bynum and Uncle Dewey?
Oh boy.
Well, I found Dewey to be a more conservative leader than what GT has. I think GT has really brought us and made us a more progressive type. I know, I get it, Tom, but
I can't. I mean, I'm going to be as polite as I can. I don't see any difference, but
yeah,
Okay.
but you know what?
it's an age difference. It's an age difference. Older guy might be better.
I want to come to Rhonda's defense here.
Please,
when you're a party official, you kind of have to get above these primary scuffles between future, past and potentially future candidates.
Well, that's true. As host, I can be as petty as I want.
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll let you.
Now, mind you, we've had this discussion in the party and amongst ourselves for years now. Explain to us what are your ideas about what the party should be doing during the primaries to help educate and so forth about whether it's going to be the candidates or the issues.
Van is suddenly entertained. What the hell happened, Van?
Well, we cannot, that we can't come out and endorse or support any candidate. It's a primary.
Okay, that's what you're laughing.
We referee the fights is what
that's pretty much what we do. And people get very discouraged, but I think there are some things that the Republican Party can do. I think that if you've got a candidate that is notably better than another, I think that there's a way either through forums or whatever that you can, if we were to host the forums, that you can ferret out who might be the more conservative or who might think more like in the way that you're wanting it to happen. So I think there are ways that the party can get involved without taking sides.
Right.
Straw polls are a great way.
How then? So then you are in. I'm sorry. I'm just flabbergasted. So part of the problem I had as a newcomer and a nobody was the ability to distinguish myself against GT Bynum. I wasn't even allowed to call myself a Republican. I mean, it was like a nonpartisan purple race.
Well,
okay. So you don't want to distinguish anybody?
No, your council seats. No, I don't believe in the nonpartisan races.
Okay.
I think that they need to be done away with.
Yeah. So how can the Tulsa County GOP?
Hang on. But in the meantime, what we can do, we can tell people who the Republican is in the race or who the Democrat is. But as far as, I would love to change it back to where it's a partisan race, because I think it's very important to know who the candidate, what the party affiliation is, because that's going to tell you a little bit about where their principles and values
are. Van, hold on. And Rhonda, I appreciate you stiff arming me there. Oldham, what were you going to say?
Nothing.
Oh, I thought you had a thing.
I want to give Rhonda some news. Rhonda, at the county convention, I talked to Dewey about it. I said, we'd like to have a good honorary chairman of the move to repeal that, nonpartisan charter.
That would be that's a great idea.
So follow up, because he told me he would.
So that's something that the GOP in Tulsa County can help move that thing.
Okay. And here's how it can be done, Tom. I mean, the thing is, there are rules set in place and we have to play within the rules, okay? So the only way that that's going to get changed is if the city council says, hey, we want to change it, so we're going to put it on the ballot. Well, guess what? They're not going to do that. If the mayor says that he'd like it on the ballot, he's not going to do that either. So it's going to be up to the citizens to go out and get the necessary signatures, because that's going to be the only way that it can be forced to be placed on the ballot. Then they're not going to have a choice, because it's coming from the citizens. So I would be behind that 110%, because I think that nonpartisan races are a sham.
And let's understand That's not a constitutional issue. That's a political issue about how the elections are held.
That makes sense.
So that's fine. Let's get behind these
We
sides
have
that
we
you
have
like.
Oldham's permission.
Oldham will now allow you to move about the country.
That's right. That's right.
Because the idea is that if you have authority to deal with it, deal with it. If you don't have authority, then don't commit the crime.
Right.
Yeah.
So there are ways we can make that
Good.
happen, Tom. And I think that if we could make it happen here, we could probably change it. It would start the ball rolling across the state because nobody likes the nonpartisan races.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I really appreciate your position on it because not being able, I mean, to label is how we know, red from green. It's literally, it's like, this is how we know. So that whole issue is just crazy with nonpartisan. So I'm glad.
And then also having elections in the middle of February, like many of our school board races, we've got to fix those. Yeah.
We
Well,
have
and
got
that's
to get
because
down
what
to 2-3 times a year, period, for our elections.
Well, and because that's when, your school, often on your school board and your city council, your filing dates are in December.
Yeah.
Well, what have you just done? We've either just come off of an election, so people are election weary. We're going through the holidays, and nobody thinks about it. And so next thing you know, now all of a sudden you've got the same candidates running, and there's no contenders. So we've really got to work on that. We've got to work on finding candidates to start running for school board and city council.
Bingo.
But the difficult thing is we're in such a cancel culture right now that that people are almost afraid to run for office because look at the pressure. I mean, I'm from Broken Arrow, and our city council has taken it, for the whole mask mandate. I mean, they did great for a year, and then we ended up with a resolution. But my city councilors don't make anything. Yeah. That's a volunteer position. And when they start going after your job, which they have done for some city councilors, they start going after their job to get them fired because they don't agree with the way that they think. Something's got to change in this, in that.
Yeah, well, you could just take the word "almost" away from your quote. They're almost afraid. No, they're afraid. I will tell you, I'm afraid. Yeah, I'm not going to run. I'm not going to. Well, I put myself out there once based on a, chivalry. I mean, the guy's lying to me. Guy's lying to me on the air. I just, can't stand there and be a man and let the mayor just lie to not just me, everybody, telling me he didn't know the ballot language. So. God bless you. I mean, I think you're doing you're doing the right thing.
For being 5 weeks in the job, I'm not doing too bad a job.
Well, the thing is, it's not just 5 weeks. You've been doing it before I even ran. It's a mother's love for some reason. You've got it in your blood to try to save stuff.
You know what? We've only had one county chairman serve 2 full terms in the 40 years I've been involved in the party. It's a thankless job. You talked to Jerry Buchanan, I knew 20 years ago. He said nobody can do the job where they feel good about it because it's just too big for a volunteer to do.
Like the 17th Amendment is a pillar. Rhonda, you hit it. A pillar because we do 3 things here on 3D Politics, and that's local, community, that's state, and then federal. Yeah. And
you forgot one.
Damn it.
Interrupt people.
Thanks. Timing is the brilliance. But you said it, Rhonda, for the local community. City or city council and school board. That's where everything starts.
Well, that's where we build our bench.
Yeah.
We can start to build our bench by getting people onto the city councils and the school boards to understand how running these meetings works, what they're allowed to do, what they're not allowed to do. and getting them involved in and getting to know the local people.
Right.
Then from there, when we have a rep or a state senator that turns out, we've got somebody that we can say, okay, we've seen how you vote, we understand how you think, we'd like for you to run for this seat.
Yeah.
That's what we have to do. We've not been building a bench.
So here's the three things I like now. Building a bench is a whole nother concept I heard from anybody else, because really that's a futuristic thought. It's not like what can we do to bring people here in the future. It's like let's recruit people
Really
now
baseball.
to be on deck. Yeah, it's a round ball, but
All
you don't kick it.
American.
But you don't kick it with your foot, Oldham.
That's right.
You soccer lovers. Anyway.
Polka dot balls.
I've turned
on the
off
grass.
all round ball sports. I only love the oval ball sports, except for baseball. Except for baseball.
All
right.
round ball sports,
Except for baseball. I've got my hypocritical. I've learned from GT. I can be hypocritical. You're
Hey,
listening.
my Dodgers won in a short season.
Dodgers,
I love it.
Schmodgers. It's all with an asterisk because it's 2020. Tom McKay here with your fine host on 3D Politics Live, featuring tonight our fine guest, Ronda Vuillemont-Smith, Tulsa County GOP Chair. Thank you for being here tonight, Ronda, and sharing your vision for the GOP, etc. Oldham out there losing his mind in the COVID chase car on the road. You couldn't tell with that fine green screen you got. And then there's Van sitting here in the beauty of his studio telling Alexa, do this, Alexa, do that.
There you go.
And then Uber Eats. And so way to go, Van and Oldham and Ronda. Thanks for. So let's close this thing out somehow and give Ronda a chance to get out of here. So we've talked about a lot of stuff. Make sure, Ronda, before we get out of here, how do they find you? How do they support you? Future. What do you got? What do you want us to do to help you?
Well, I'd like for you, if you're not already signed up for our email, to go to tulsagop.org and sign up for the newsletter or email. I'm not going to call it a newsletter. And then also, I would like for you to do the same thing with OKGOP.com. I think it's very important that we start getting that you get both the county and the state emails. And you can reach me at my email address is Ronda with no H at tulsagop.org. And my cell number for anyone that might want to get in touch with me is 918-853-7986.
All right.
Now, ladies, that's what you call a chutzpah right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Your cell phone number. That's pretty good. She's like, oh, yeah?
Yeah. Hey,
Call me.
give me a call. Yeah, that's right.
I just
No
remember
problem, call me.
when Trump gave out Lindsey Graham's cell phone number.
Well, yeah, but you know what? I figure if Steve Kunzweiler can give his out on the radio, I can give mine out.
There you
And,
go.
I
that
see.
I'm easy to get in touch with.
There you go.
And I'm open to well, I'm not open to everything, but I am willing to listen.
The first guy
so.
you are. You put up with me. And
I
then the
do.
first guy I heard that gave his number that inspired me before I ever thought about running was Clay Clark. Clay Clark was on KFAQ, and he was going to run for mayor for a second. And and he gave his number, and I called him too. He was like, hey,
Talked him out of it.
yeah. He's like, I'm not running for mayor. I'm scared. I'm afraid.
Right,
Nut jobs from everywhere. Rhonda, thanks for being
well,
here.
thank you so much for having me. I have enjoyed this immensely,
Excellent.
and I look forward to doing it again sometime soon. Maybe we'll have some breaking news or something that we're
Good.
doing.
Way,
But I'd love to give you an update on what's going on here in Tulsa County.
We will do it. We appreciate you being here. We definitely want to have you back, especially to find out where we're going in the future. So, Rhonda, we're going to send you away, but first I'm going to beam you out.
All right.
Here it goes. Van, don't you touch a thing. There goes Rhonda. See you, Rhonda. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Oh, that was sweet, wasn't it?
There we go.
There you go.
Oh,
Did you see how? Now, this was
Did
a
I do-
lesson to anybody who comes on 3D Politics of how to stiff arm the host. Rhonda was able to just say, just hold it, Tom. Nice job, Rhonda. She just told me to just hold
All
it.
right. I got some breaking news happening.
Okay, here we go with Van. Van, what do you got?
All right. Remember a few weeks ago, we had Chip Hall on. And Chip was very concerned about a major overhaul in our medical marijuana program, also known as David Oldham's "I told you so." It's not liberty, it's license. And he's right. And so I had to keep my mouth shut. Last Wednesday, I was at the Capitol, and chairman of Senate committee pulled me in the room and wanted to talk. And it was about this very bill. And then I got a call back this morning is look for a committee substitute to HB 2272. And while we were talking to Rhonda, I pulled up on the state server. Sure enough, it's filed. They have gutted almost completely all of it. And Attorney General Mike Hunter had a meeting today, and the senator called me and said, listen, after talking to Hunter, we're going to gut this bill and replace it with something that Mike Hunter wants, and that's a ban on foreign money coming in to these dispensaries, the ownership of the dispensaries. So it's an entirely different bill.
Oldham has corkscrewed totally.
Now, what I want to say on this,
it's like, no way.
Yeah, no, what I want to say on this is if you hear about HB 2272 passing, it's no longer the same bill. It just has the same bill number.
Well, and this is in the Senate.
Yes.
So if it passes the Senate, it has to go back to the House.
Yes. Yeah.
And be repassed by the House.
Right.
For this thing to come through.
Right.
But Hunter isn't calling for the end of prohibition yet.
No.
Okay.
No.
I just wanted to make that clear.
No.
That Attorney General Hunter is not calling for constitutional governance. I just want to make that clear.
Now, what I do want to say here,
the hyperbole is insane around here.
No, it's not hyperbole.
Okay.
That is actual fact.
I know.
But I'm going to tie this in, Oldham. Hunter did notify the legislature that you have to end the ban on out-of-state money coming in because of the Tennessee winery case that went to the Supreme Court.
Right.
Because there again, in Oldham, you talked about it last week, the citizens of each state are entitled to all of the privileges of every state, right? I butchered it, I'm sorry. Okay, but that doesn't apply to foreigners. They don't have those same rights.
They don't have
And so what Hunter's saying is, because he has reason to believe there's Chinese money coming in to own dispensaries and grow operations, big farms, all of that. Now, what I told
the problem with Hunter is he just doesn't believe that liberty is our inherent right.
Yeah.
It's just, licensing is our inherent right.
Well, okay. But what I want to say in this is, as of now, I can agree with what this is doing here in a limited sense, just in the limited issue, the limited decision about, that there's no foreign money coming in. And essentially, this bill just says that anybody who applies must attest on, threat of, perjury, that sign an affidavit saying there's no foreign money involved in this.
Okay, from just a political perspective, the answer to this is the same as the answer to censorship. It is not to ban speech from foreigners. It is to allow all speech is the answer.
That's a good way of putting it.
And that is the answer for this, guys.
Yeah.
And that's always going to be the answer, because if foreigners come in and drive down our cause, we have less of a chance of cartels and mafia coming into Oklahoma. Whereas with this bill and with prohibition and the extortion scheme of licensure, we have 100% chance of them coming in because this is where the money's at.
Okay.
So I understand. Let me ask you a question. I got an economic question, but first I understand the idea that people take things, axioms, and say them unfortunately incorrectly, like all everything. What's the statement when they say everything to a minimum, right? Everything to a minimum, but really the axiom is nothing to excess. You know,
Oh,
You mean all things in moderation?
all things in
all things in moderation.
all things.
Right.
I never do moderation, so all things in moderation is not correct because you don't want even a moderate amount of poison. Nothing to excess is really the axiom. So it's the same type of point you're trying to make.
Remember, the American axiom is nothing that violates the equal rights of others.
Just in the format.
Now, personally, you may not want to take enough poison to harm
Hi,
yourself.
Van. What do you
Could
got?
I pull us back to this bill here?
Yes,
So again, the bill originally called for a freeze on new licenses and authorization to shut down any business that isn't making enough money for the state in taxes. And so it was hideous. Now, I have to say, I had a great day at the Capitol Wednesday. I was well received, rebuilt some relationships and developed new ones. But when I was called into a conference, when they saw me there, they said, get in here, let's go get these senators. And, we talked. They got it. They said, the more you regulate, the more you create black markets. So this was not going to kill a black market. It was going to
create one,
fertilize it.
Yes.
Yeah. And then today, the committee chairman said, I talked to the floor leader, Kim David. She said exactly that. This bill wasn't going to do anything to stop black markets. It was going to fertilize it. I mean, it was going to cause it to grow. So the senators get it, and I am very refreshed that they understand at least that principle that governments create black markets.
And I call for the dissolution of the floor amendment and back to the original as proposed amendment, because that's what we need in Oklahoma.
It's trying to sound like me rambling like a drunk man.
Poison
What the
pill.
hell?
That's what he is.
What are you saying, Oldham? I totally lost you there.
Well, here's the thing. We need a poison pill that is deadly and not one that will get you by and kill you with cancer later on.
Come on. A moderate poison pill always works later.
Okay. I have one other story.
That's what you're saying.
2009 taking effect in 2014 with Obamacare, right?
Exactly.
That's exactly it.
The safety task force with GT Bynum in 2013, and now what do we got? Shootings.
Yeah. Tom, I got one other story.
Okay.
All right.
I think we're having way too much fun. So go ahead, Van.
I'm going to just quickly share the screen. You'll find him on Sooner Politics. This guy, Steve Bias, he's my mentor. This guy's been doing journalism in Oklahoma politics since the 1978. This guy is a mentor. What he's calling on the state Republican Party to end this love affair with electronic voting. And because at our state convention, we've got some things going on here where they're going to take away Ronda's authority to oversee her Tulsa County delegation, because the rules of the party, the constitutional bylaws of the party, allow each county delegation to conduct their own delegation elections and then report in roll call the votes of the county. There are many reasons why you do it this way, because everybody's in the room, they're facing each other, and that way anybody in the county can challenge the report. Let's say Ronda gets the numbers flipped. Right away, you can call on it. This electronic voting is rife for all kinds of problems, and it requires you to take a mandatory class ahead of time in order to vote, which is another violation of the state bylaws. And then thirdly, you have to have an electronic device, and it has to be powered up and stay powered up enough, even though they aren't guaranteeing us a way to recharge our phones, regardless.
The relationship between the voter and the government is like a marriage, and you can't do it virtually. You got to do it face to face.
Yeah.
Well, I will say to this, although the recharging aspect is something that that Lori and I at Constitutional Grounds are taking seriously and working on. Visit our table at the Republican Party convention, because we're going to be passing out not only conventions in English,
Shameless plug.
in English
Shameless.
and Spanish, but we will also we're also working on a recharging station and other things there.
But
the other thing is, and I spoke with our state chairman this weekend about this very issue, and with Ronda, because Ronda was there and expressing calls that she had gotten about this very issue. And especially on the heels of so many problems at the national level, right? And so many people activated because of this issue. And so what we're working on doing is actually being able to demonstrate that the system is secure and that the system actually, everybody can check their own personal vote, and that then the math is presented visually so everybody can do the math.
That's all a moot point if you're violating the bylaws, number one, and number two, not even following proper process in making changes, even if the people do decide to do this.
Okay, and that was something that I had not considered. We'll have to talk afterwards because that is an important.
So you're listening to a spat between David Van and David.
Oh, I don't think so.
Well, of course you don't think so. That's my job as host, is to build this mountain out of a molehill. There they are fighting, scratching each other's eyes out. There was near death on 3D Politics Live on Monday night. Thank God Ronda wasn't here to see you guys fight.
Is this Quick Trip? Because people thought we were fighting in Quick Trip when we were actually in total agreement.
8 years ago.
There's only two things I miss when I leave Tulsa, and that is Quick Trip and fine airport parking. Other than that, there's nothing to get here. Stick around, guys. Wait a minute. We got a little break here. You know what? Every week on Facebook Live, 3D Politics comes to you. Look at that. Van's got it all lit up. That's
I made
right.
that logo all by myself.
Dude, Van, that is one of the best logos I ever.
Not
3D Politics, the American Constitutional Republic, affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like you, but not me. Because I'm your host, Tommy McKay, the verbal Viking comedian, political humorist, father of 5, and one day I ran for mayor. And then also David Van, creator of Sooner Politics, expert on Oklahoma state government, running currently for state vice chair in Oklahoma GOP, and David Oldham, founder, scholar, constitutionalgrounds.com, political leader, educational speaker, former electoral college member of the state of Oklahoma. So here we are again, rocking it. What I've noticed about this great group that we have here at 3D Politics is it never ends. It never ends. When we hang up, we continue, and then when we come back together, I tell them, don't start yet. Wait till the show happens. And then we go for 2 hours, and Ronda comes and goes, and then we keep going. And then later when we hang up, Lori tells David, shut up. I don't even care anymore. The dog, look how cute the dog is. Buffy's the cutest one I've ever seen. That's not what we're talking about. You got a license for your dog?
You should have seen her eating waffles.
No, don't you dare try to commandeer the show with a cute dog. I can't compete with that crap. You saw how easily Ronda still stiff-armed me. It was bad out there.
What I want to say, though.
Okay, back to business. Damn it, the boss is here.
Look,
Go ahead.
I'm this, convention weekend, I'm going to be busy campaigning.
You are working your ass off. That's right.
Yeah, there's a lot of running around going on.
You're doing a lot.
But I want to tell you, Steve Bias, one of the most respected historians of our state party and a wise counsel, what he had to say here is very important. I think there's probably going to be a challenge on the Rules Committee report and a recall, a call to strike those blanks and return it back to each county delegation just to simply do their own voting and count up their own ballots and have the chairman report.
Okay, Oldham, are you following him? You know what he's talking about?
Yeah, I know perfectly well what he's talking about.
Well, explain it to me because I am lost.
Okay, so what happens every time is a vote for whatever issue comes up. And it's usually a vote for a particular position, but it could be a vote that is taken for a particular issue that is of import and needs to have a vote taken.
Whatever comes before the body.
Well, we do voice vote and standing vote, and then it may go to roll call.
And if it goes to roll call, what happens is every county will then count up their own votes and then go to the microphone and report what their votes are to then tabulated as reported, etc. Okay, so the thing is, it takes a very long period of time. What the state party apparatus is trying to implement is something that is being done already within the legislature. Basically, an electronic voting where it goes directly to the board and everybody can see their own particular vote, their own personal vote, but it goes directly there and it saves time. Yeah. So the question is threefold as I see it. First, do the rules allow this change? Number two, is it a good change? And number three, should we entertain
who has the authority, David?
Uphold the rules.
Who has the authority to make the change? That's the most fundamental thing.
All within the rules, and I completely agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah. Well, here's my
what's your contention, Van?
Well, here's the thing. If you have a question about how the voting's done in your county, and by the way, this is vastly different from the legislature in that we go as delegations of counties, unlike legislators who are each part of a committee of the whole. So
okay, now that is why people tune in to 3D Politics, is because public schools don't teach you the important stuff.
Right.
What did you just say? The difference between what is what, because one represents the body of the whole and one represents the other. What did you say?
Well, okay. You've watched a national presidential party convention. Remember, Mr. Chairman, the great state of Ohio, the state of the Buckeyes, cast so many votes. That's called the roll call. That is where they're announcing. But here's the thing. If you're part of that delegation, you know that somebody in your delegation reported your delegation votes. If you have any questions, you can immediately question it when they give that roll call, or you can re-poll your people. You know that your election was handled locally within your county delegation, instead of you trying to get justice from the state if something's wrong. This is not this.
Which body? Okay, I don't know what I did here, but because I care. Which body is the body?
Let me explain.
Did you understand my question, Oldham?
Yes, I do. So here's the issue. The issue is whether or not your vote is cast and counted by your local chairman, your local county chairman, and then reported to the body in general, the convention in general, or whether your vote goes directly to the convention in general. The problem is, could there be problems in the mathematics?
So to clarify the difference, the one that goes directly is what Oldham was saying, that your vote is only with the body.
Basically,
and the one that goes the other way, the one that goes and the other one that goes the other way is the one that you have more control as an individual.
Here's the problem, and I give this example a lot, because you can report your votes. Okay, you can report your votes exactly as they were cast, and you can have your vote cast you can verify your vote was cast exactly, but they can still mess with the numbers. And we've seen this in various elections. The biggest one was the Maine vote for Ron Paul in 2012. What happened was he actually won the caucus vote in Maine, but the state party wanted somebody else to get the credit and get the news cycle, and so they reported a different number than was reported by all the mathematics, by everybody who reported. They had tried to manipulate things so that nobody would catch it, but people caught it and reported it to the national media, and it became a big thing. But someone got the news cycle, Ron Paul didn't, and the other person moved up.
That
All right, Van, what do you got?
But okay, so a number of things that can break down in this. People's phones the battery goes dead. The Wi-Fi has a problem, whether it's either the building's Wi-Fi or your own cellular data. We don't know if it's going to handle that capacity. Number three, could be a problem in their system, but there's no paper backup. And, it just one person has a technological problem. Maybe it's their device. This is a difficulty. If somebody says, wait a minute, I'm not getting through, it's not taking it. There's just all kinds of potential problems with it, where simply casting a ballot and giving it to your county chairman, the whole process is usually 30 to 40 minutes at most. And we have about three votes we have to take. 3 roll call votes to take.
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
Now, they could be as many as half a dozen, depending upon who it manages to get the convention to maybe consider extra votes. But the point is, the important votes, there are 3. After that, there could be more. But the important votes, the votes for the
chair and vice chair, that's 2.
Chair and vice chair, who else? Platform committee and rules.
Those typically are done on voice voter standing.
Usually those go just by voice votes. They could be called, but that depends.
Yeah.
Could be.
This is the real filet mignon, the people that tune into 3D politics to try to follow this kind of minutia.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Here's what I want to get at. In
God,
Oldham, you can attest to, you've seen enough. We've seen county Republican parties try to encroach and take over the autonomy and authority of the precinct party organization. And now we're seeing the state encroaching and take over in some of the functions of the county party. And this is a problem with a person like me, who back in the 80s, and my very first orientation, I was told this is a bottoms up party. Everything starts at the precinct, and the power and authority emanates from there. And the precinct is the supreme authority, and this is a quote, the supreme authority of the Republican Party in each precinct is the precinct committee. And so we have to respect that and not have a county taking over a precinct function, like saying, no, you're meeting this night at this location miles away from your precinct, which is a violation of our bylaws. Okay, now we're seeing some of it at the state level. We're saying, no, Chairman, you're not going to poll your delegation anymore. We decided, without a state committee vote, we decided that you're not going to.
Now, mind you, I would love it if Oklahoma did a convention, a real convention that went a weekend, a full weekend, like Texas does. Okay, and so we could do these kinds of votes and take the time we need and have entertainment in between and all of the other, the things that Texas does. Texas
has a panhandle.
Okay.
Anyway,
that's how they afford it.
But here's the thing: when you're trying to get it done all by 3 o'clock, we've got to think outside the box. And I understand the rules don't necessarily allow for it, but we've got to figure out what are we going to do.
Let's talk about this box.
Are we going to allow it?
Okay, Oldham, 2 years ago, we got out of there at 3 o'clock and we had 3 votes. We went 1 ballot on chair, 2 ballots on vice chair. And likely it'll flip the other way this time, but
Correct.
it's 3 votes. Everything else went fine. We're looking for a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. This is my thing. But again, I'll do whatever the convention floor decides. But ultimately, it is the floor of the convention, the delegates, that will decide what the rules are, not the current party chair, not the current executive committee or central committee. The delegates decide.
Correct. It will be the delegates, even if it ends up in a mass confusion. It will be the convention that decides.
Yeah.
And this is the beauty because these are convention rules. We can change things up, and again, because I'm thinking constitutionally, these are political decisions.
You cannot make a convention rule that violates the state bylaws of the party.
Out of the box for Oldham is not thinking constitution.
Hey, no, because
that's the one day
this is not a constitutional issue.
Yeah,
this
is
just subjective.
For Oldham to say I'm thinking constitutionally is like, well, sure, you know.
Right.
But out of the box for Oldham is like, I'm not constitutional.
Yeah, my thing is,
Oldham's lost his mind.
I don't care if you get 60% of the people or 70% say they're fine with the rules. When there are certain rights that a county delegation has, other counties can't vote to take theirs away without going through the amendment process.
I love hearing Van say that other people can't vote away your rights.
Yes.
I like when you two guys, I feel like a real matchmaker.
You in this discussion, Oldham.
I'm like a matchmaker. I'm like a little Cupid. Shooting little arrows into the hearts of these two guys. David Van, creator of SoonerPolitics.org, and David Oldham, founder and scholar at ConstitutionalGrounds.com. Me, Tommy, your fine host and Cupid, bringing all things together for love. Right there at verbalviking.com. So I love it when you guys agree. But I will tell you this. I think one of the things I've learned, and tell me if you think I'm on it or not, but the vagaries of our representative republic, that is, that there are vague issues. You guys argue over things because it's not locked down like Hitler would do. It's not all black lined to where
Oldham would have you think it is very clear.
No, his clarity, Oldham's clarity is on demanding the vagaries. And that is that we have to allow these freedoms. And what I continue to like about our system that our founding fathers gave us is that these states have their areas and these precincts have their areas. The counties have all these areas have their areas. And within those lack of perfect definition, like a dictator would do, there are vagaries. And this is what allows our freedom. Water finds its way through the path of least resistance. And when there's not every single thing locked down, then there's some freedom around here.
Yeah.
And I love when you guys agree on protecting the vagaries of our system.
Yeah, and I want to say, I had a proposal for a change of the state rule. I have gone through the proper process. I'll have to say humbly, I have passed more amendments to our state party rules than anyone. And I have a respect for the proper order of the way you do things. Yes.
Oh, crap, I did it again. Look at me take credit.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. I had a very important party rule amendment that I
Oldham, that's not allowed on the show. Hold on, I'm sorry. Oldham, you're going to have to cut off your camera and your mic, then suck an empty straw so that you don't interrupt Van.
I am trying to say I am not using Coke products.
Try to be less white, Oldham.
Okay.
Go ahead, Van.
This is my wrap up on this. I've changed the party rules the right way several times, respecting the process. And I had a very important party rule proposal that I brought to my precinct meeting. only to be told by my chairman, not Ronda, but the previous chairman, that no, he made a rule that you had to present it 2 days before your precinct meeting. But keep in mind, the rule has always been you had to have it passed at a precinct meeting first.
Please, this sounds like Catholic dogma. Go ahead.
Right. But here's the thing. When you shut out from people the proper and orderly way to change the bylaws, now you have, I could think of a lot of words.
Rule?
Yeah, there you go. You said it.
You think like the judiciary did with the election in Pennsylvania?
Well, what you're saying is they create the problem.
They make it impossible for you to use the constitutional means to amend the Constitution.
Right.
And yet they flaunt the Constitution and just make up new rules that weren't passed in an orderly and constitutional way.
Correct.
So I'm only saying this. Look, I can deal with either way at this convention. But I want the people of Oklahoma to know, the Republicans of Oklahoma, this is not the way that I will approve of doing business as part of the state central committee.
All right, Oldham.
In this, David and I are completely and 100% in agreement. Lawlessness is always the problem. It's, you know, and I've been talking to people about this all for weeks. And it's not about anarchy, it's about lawlessness. And this is the key word, lawlessness. People want to do things their own way, irrespective of the rules.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's lawless. So let's stick with the rules.
Yeah.
Let's change the rules if we need to, because the rules can be changed.
So just like 3D politics, you two guys are the bricks and I am the grout. Okay. I fill in the little things, and so when you say, damn it,
it was good. I'm sure it was.
What it has to do with is that arbitrary, because here's I didn't lose it. I was just overwhelmed with emotion. The bricks are held together by the things in between. And when you say lawlessness, people do not recognize, like I do, the grout. Arbitrary enforcement of law is lawlessness. When they don't enforce accurately and consistently, when sometimes you're in trouble and sometimes you're not, when they pull you over to give you a turkey instead of a ticket, that is arbitrary enforcement of the law, and that is lawlessness.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. It's absolutely lawlessness. People who want a turkey and think a cop should do something nice for you, when they give you a turkey, don't see that as arbitrary enforcement of the law. When you get pulled over and you're like, oh, thank God I got a turkey. No, you should say, give me an effing ticket, because you shouldn't be pulled over for arbitrary enforcement of the law to pretend you're my daddy, gonna give me a frozen turkey to feed my family. I'm over it.
Okay, so you're getting back to Steve Bias, because he called me on.
We talking about Steve Bias?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, about the Constitution, he's got an email saying it's mandatory for every delegate to log in, to sign up for and watch a Zoom meeting, a class on how to use the electronic system. Steve Bias says, I'm not doing that. He says, since 1976, I've only missed one Republican state convention. He says, I may be kicked out of this one, but I don't care. I am not doing it. And this is sad.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know about anybody being kicked out.
Did you not read the word required meeting?
Hey, Oldham, go on.
I have not seen a single email.
So anyway, you haven't heard anybody of us quick out what?
Well, I have, so I'll tell you, it was said to be required.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing I've heard. We have over 2,600 people who have signed up to come to the meeting.
Yep.
To the state convention. 2,600. We haven't had that since 2012 presidential election.
Yep.
Come to a state convention. That's how fired up people are.
Yeah.
Now, whether I do not see, I have not heard. I will have to look now that you are bringing it up. I have not seen as a credentialing requirement that in order to be credentialed, I have to have attended the Zoom meeting.
Well, then you're not up to speed. I'm telling you, it's
then I'm
black
not
and
up to
white. It's an
speed.
email sent to every delegate.
Because at this
Boom,
point,
throw down.
I am not qualified to credential because
Okay.
I haven't gone either.
Okay,
I haven't
let's
done
talk
the Zoom meeting.
hypothetically then, Oldham. If a
Okay.
chairman sends that out to every delegate and says it's required, even though he has no authority to require it, and it's only when the rules committee meets and then when the rules are presented on the floor and they're passed, then what you have is an ex post facto law.
Correct.
And you're enough of a constitutionalist, you know there's a ban on ex post facto
Well,
laws.
you have a problem with people not showing up thinking that they aren't allowed because they haven't done something, and
Look,
therein lies the problem is people won't show up who should be there and would be there except for the supposed
They think
purported,
they can't show up.
It's no different than the mask law. And the mask ordinances dictates that go out. It's all BS. They can still go out and do whatever they want to do.
It's a Rule 3B violation.
So
it's a Rule 3B violation of our state party bylaws.
Okay.
Anybody who does that to anyone is automatically kicked out of any leadership role. Furthermore, any number of Oklahoma Republican voters can now sue the state for violating their right to full access just on that.
Well,
I'm sorry, but it's true.
No. Let's talk after the show because
After the show, you liars! You told me you weren't going to ever talk.
I don't want to have to be dealing with lawsuits that are caused by a predecessor administration.
I literally am not. I cannot follow each one of your in-depth arguments back and forth because I'm the host, and that is not my job.
Well, if
I
you
am
can't
like
follow
the
it,
audience.
then nobody else is either.
No, that's not true. There's audience members that are smarter than me. My job is to try to explain to those that are me what's going on. So here's my question. I literally cannot believe we're here. You guys are defining the vagaries that I mentioned earlier with such great love. Where does Robert's Rules of Order come in when there are no explanations of said get-together? I got put down by an old woman in a shawl at a PTA meeting when she said that she would not allow a showing of hands.
Okay.
And I was like, you can't do that. And she could, actually, according to Robert's Rules of Order, because I didn't offer the motion and then get a second.
Well, Tom, they speak specifically to that. And here's what our state bylaws say. Now, setting aside anything about criminal legality with state and federal statutes, let's put that aside because that always crumps, right?
Different thing.
Okay. So your most direct ruling has to do with the convention rules passed at the beginning of the convention. Okay, but they have to be in keeping with the state constitution of the party, which is our state party bylaws. Those are permanent. Those are our charter founding documents.
Correct.
And then any matter that hasn't been spoken to directly by either the state party rules or the convention rules falls back on Robert's Rules of Order.
Thank you, host Tommy McKay, Verbal Viking, for bringing reality to everyone's confusion.
Right. Yeah. So Robert's Rules only comes in when something has not been dealt with by a state or convention rule.
Yeah.
Where they make up their bylaws, and when they make up their bylaws and such, then Robert's Rules of Order is out of line.
Yeah. Now, some of the state and convention rules will refer to Robert's Rules, but that then calls them into play. But Robert's Rules only comes in when there's a question, when something hasn't been dealt with, and then there's a question. Robert's Rules comes in, and this is and I don't see this being a great problem. We'll get there. David and I'll talk after the show.
No talking after the show. I've already banned that.
No.
You literally are not allowed to do that.
I will have you know, I was the fly on the wall while Ronda was bringing this up to David, the state party chairman, and was actually taking the position of David Van right here.
You guys, you
And
got
thank God.
saying other
Hey.
people are calling this into question.
Listen.
So we've
I-
got, you know, a lot
You know
of
what?
things.
That
working.
validates what I'm saying because I'm protecting the authority in the office of the county chair.
We are, but this is
Oldham.
coming from the
Yeah.
grassroots. This is coming from the participants, the individual members who are reporting this to Ron. Rhonda was talking about all the calls she's been getting.
Oh,
She
yeah.
was not talking
I'll
about
bet
her
she
own
has.
personal view on the issue. She
Yeah.
was talking about the calls she was getting. So
Right.
and we have talked into
Okay.
the weeds on this one.
Okay.
Yep.
The cattails of growing. Now, mind you, cattails are very nutritious
Oh my
if you
God.
get to the roots.
So as you
But-
know,
But you have to, you know, yank them out of the mud first. So,
look, I got to crack the whip around here.
Yes,
You
go ahead.
know, we know that
and we're
there's
not done because
we do not talk. There's no such thing for the audience as us ever talking off air or during the break or after the
we're
show.
not allowed to.
That's not
say
what
it.
happens.
Leave
The
it
audience
through.
is here the whole time, and then otherwise we don't do it. And so, yeah. But no, I appreciate all the vagaries and the fact that Robert's Rules of Order is literally a thing. I was right about that.
Right.
And that is if there are no other bylaws or whatever, according to the Constitution, am I not correct, Oldham, that if you've not calculated bylaws and et cetera, you are assumed to be operating under Robert's Rules of Order.
Pretty much. Right.
Because
The
that's
bylaws
where-
are the constitution of the party.
You're listening to Tommy McKay here, your verbal Viking and host of 3D Politics every Monday night with David Van and David Oldham, the creator of Sooner Politics and the founder and scholar of constitutionalgrounds.com, respectively. Boom. There it is. We're going to let this thing ride us out. We want to thank Ronda Vuillemont-Smith for being here on 3D Politics to talk about all about the Tulsa County GOP chair that she has just won recently. I want to thank David Van for being here tonight and David Oldham also for being here tonight. I want to tell you there's one thing I want to share with you before it all happens and we get out of here. You know, there was a thing recently about who gets to decide that kneeling is a form of disrespect. You know, this is from this is a prayer for respect. Ask more respect. Resident Judy Seuss. But the thing is, for me, is that the question, who gets to decide that kneeling is a form of disrespect? I do. Kneeling for a political statement at a sporting event is disrespectful for the spirit of the game. The fans have paid for the entertainment and a rude non sequitur. Change of subject without pertinent context relevant to the gathering. Like a heckler that I should recognize as a comedian. Be respectful, you sports players. Score some points. Earn some respect. All right. You guys got anything else?
Powering down.
Thank God for that. That's it for tonight. 3D Politics. We're going to say goodbye to David Oldham. There he goes. David Oldham from constitutionalgrounds.com. And there it goes. David Van from SoonerPolitics.org. And here I go. Your fine host. Find me at verbalviking.com. Bye-bye, kiddies. We'll see you next week. Thank you, Ronda Vuillemont-Smith, for being here tonight.